Welcome everyone to Wrasslin Raw!
Listening to Wrasslin Raw, the podcast that takes you back to when the World Wrestling Federation developed a little bit of an attitude. Thank you for joining us. You're here with Ryan Arico.
You could be master and ruler of the world all you want, Stalin.
Joe Gimateo.
Obviously, Crush is taking exception with the jailbird chant.
Jailbird. I'm the one and only Jason Bartlett, and we're going to examine WWE history one episode of Raw at a time. In this episode of Wrasslin Raw, we're going to be talking about the Raw that aired on January 13th, 1997. This Raw was recorded at the Knickerbocker Arena in Albany, New York, and features Vince McMahon and, wait for it, gushing Honky Tonk Man on commentary throughout the entire show.
The whole time.
There's a tarp in front of me. We're going to need it. Are you guys ready?
I'm ready.
Ready.
All right, then. Let's get into it. Psycho Sid's dastardly attack on the son of Jose Lothario was meant to tear the hearts out of the Lothario family, after apparently sending them into full cardiac arrest. Meanwhile, Shawn Michaels, hanging out in a bar in San Antonio, signing a autograph for the real Double J Jesse James on Superstars. Stone Cold Steve Austin fucked Bret Hart up somehow. He might be down for the count. This is Monday Night Raw. And this is our first match of the night. Jerry the King Lawler and Hunter Hearst Helmsley defeat Goldust and Marc Mero with Marlena and Sable, respectively, by disqualification in 11 minutes and 26 seconds. Again, I was coming day and night to discover that the Honky Tonk Man was going to be on commentary all night long, and then I was coming even harder when I heard Sable's entrance music. That's all facetiousness, folks. In reality, I wanted to change the channel right away. As soon as this episode started, I hope you got that earlier whenever I was talking about gushing over the Honky Tonk Man. This was some bullshit, I thought. But hey, man, whatever. You know, you can't even throw Jim Ross in there, maybe? Whatever, though. Things got a little more interesting once Goldust made a running entrance into the ring and got things started hot with Helmsley. Goldust and Hunter looked good for the brief amount of time that they were in there. Lawler and Mero didn't look terrible, as Mero was sticking to punches, which are by far his only good move, the one thing that he's actually legitimately trained to do in his entire life. There was a lot of vocalization here early on. I loved Goldust and Hunter yelling back and forth at each other, but things couldn't last forever. Mero and Lawler got back in the ring, and things immediately got mild. The ref got tied up in a really convoluted series of events that looked dumb as hell. And the double teaming here was pretty ridiculous. The DQ ending, we're not there yet, but the DQ ending could have happened at any time here, really. There were plenty of opportunities throughout this entire match for the ref to call it on that. On a positive note, this match did make me want to see just a straightforward match between Goldust and Helmsley. I think that could be a great fucking match to watch if we didn't have all of these other hangers on during another inevitable distraction. This one's with Sable screaming at the ref, "Go watch the match!" I wanted to go change the channel again. The ref was really pissing me off here. He kept getting in the way and was just always in the wrong position. And I mean that in a practical way, not like a working, getting bumped in the ring kind of way. He was just always in the wrong spot. I loved how Vince would ask the Honky Tonk Man a question and then immediately interrupt Honky Tonk Man to call the action. He did that repeatedly throughout this, so much so that Honky Tonk kind of started to shut up about halfway through this episode. Mero's flying head scissors actually looked pretty good, and finally Goldust got in the ring with Helmsley, and the fucking ref was trying to pull them apart I really, really wanted to change the channel there.
Don't want a wrestling match to break out here.
Right. These people, we can't have them attacking each other. When Hunter got tied up in the ropes, I noticed that Goldust's armpits were blown out in his jumpsuit. He needs to get a new jumpsuit. But then out of nowhere, the bell rings. I guess punching Hunter while Hunter was tied up is what crossed the line into DQ territory here. Who the fuck knows? And then the finish just fizzles out as we go to a shot of Shawn Michaels in San Antonio, which is our next segment. But first, let's talk about this match. Ryan, I thought this match sucked and was way too fucking long. What did you think of it?
Yeah, it was definitely way too long. You know, some things that I did like from the beginning is the way Goldust came down to the ring. You know, he set aside all of his pomp and circumstance of his entrance, and he just made a beeline for Hunter. I thought that was good. And I also... as annoyed as I am with Honky on commentary, I did laugh every time he called McMahon MacMan instead of McMahon.
Jeez.
I did laugh about that. You know, and when it first started off, it looked like maybe this wasn't going to be that bad. But then once the King and Mero were in there and they clasped hands to start a feats of strength, you kind of knew it was just going to be downhill from there. And it was, for the most part. You know, Hunter and Lawler, they don't work bad together as a tag team or a heel tag team here. You know, it's a little bit believable the way that they work it. Lawler, very good in the ring, just past his prime. And Hunter, excellent in the ring right now. So the real weak link here is Marc Mero, and it definitely showed every time he got in there. The one thing they did do is we were killing for Goldust and Hunter, the two best in this match, and we don't get much of it. They just kind of tease our taint with it a little bit, and I guess in the end, though, that's maybe a good thing. You know, because it did make me excited for this Royal Rumble match between the two, and they didn't give us everything we wanted to see. So, if anything, it did do a good job of saying, or at least making you maybe want to watch the pay-per-view because of it.
Yeah, when we have Wildman Marc Mero in a match at this point, we pretty much know it's going to be a bad match.
Yeah.
Really, I mean, the match sucked. And I was kind of, I guess, more paying attention to the clusterfuck of a story that they're trying to tell with all of this. Because it was 2 weeks ago, right, where Marlena was basically like assaulted and injured. I don't know. I mean, if one of their wives is assaulted and injured on TV, wouldn't you think that they would, I don't know, beat the shit out of the guy like in the back or not settle it in some shitty tag team match? I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like. So we got that, part of it, and then
that's the only honorable way to do it, though, Joe.
A shitty tag team match.
Well, and in between, she's dumping out her tits on Shotgun Saturday Night. So I mean, I guess she's okay. I don't know.
Her legs weren't all akimbo, so
she was able to get up on the ring. Yeah.
You prepare for a shitty tag team match by having a shitty singles match on an off show.
Naturally.
Right, with the Sultan.
Yeah.
Do you guys remember when Marlena was like almost molesting Sable a couple months ago? I thought maybe we'd get some of that, but
completely
no.
forgot about it. What do you mean?
In fact, I was more interested in what could happen with that than this actual match. Marlena and Sable going at it outside the ring there.
Oh, outside the ring. Okay.
And, I guess, I don't know. This is terrible, guys. Marc Mero, good Lord.
Yeah,
I really debated with myself on if I really wanted to, belabor the point, because as you said, Joe, if it's a Mero match, it's guaranteed to be shit. So I thought, no, I should just lean into it and bitch up a storm about it anyway. So here we are. It's sad that it's that predictable to this point, and I was trying to console myself months ago with the whole, oh, well, whenever he changes to the Golden Gloves boxer gimmick, that's gonna be more up his alley, that's gonna be closer to his personality, maybe he'll pull that off better, but I'm
no hope at this point. No hope for that.
Any optimism I had is just really getting destroyed here.
Yeah, unless you're delusional.
Well, yeah. let's get away from that because we have much better things to look at. Earlier, we saw Shawn Michaels hanging out in San Antonio. We're going to go back and take another look at Shawn Michaels in San Antonio, but this is just for a quick minute. Vince really just wanted to look at Shawn for a minute without talking to him. This would be the second time we just took a gander at Shawn. Again, not going to talk to him, just look at him real quick, and then we're going to go to comments from Sid. Sid was in quite the loquacious mood. He talks German philosophy here. He paraphrases Nietzsche for us, as a matter of fact. This was pretty cool, actually. Sid wasn't oiled up. He was standing in the empty Alamo Dome, and there was just nothing going on around him, so we could hear his quiet talking, and I felt that gave it a better delivery. You know, we could hear the kind of quiet intensity he puts into those whispers, even though it's nonsense.
His music wasn't blaring over top of him either.
Oh, yeah.
When he decided to yell, it echoed throughout the entire thing. That was pretty cool. Sid thinks Jose Lothario has the power to summon all the Mexicans of Mexico. I don't know if you guys knew that or not, but Jose might have that ability.
Well, there's 70,000 seats in that Alamo Dome.
Well, the end result of this is going to be that all of the Mexicans and then all of the people of San Antonio will know that Sid is the master and ruler of the world. It's just especially important that all of the Mexicans do. We're going to go back to Shawn Michaels, again, without talking to him. Just got to let Vince get another gander at the sexy boy before breaking to commercial.
Prepare himself.
When we come back,
Let me see my sexy boy.
pop a blue chew real quick.
Edging himself.
My boy.
When we come back, this time, Shawn is allowed to speak. Just kidding. Vince just wanted to look at him again. Now we're going to go down the video package rabbit hole of the history of Sid and Shawn and Jose and Peter, Lothario, and the non-gimmicked table. Finally, though, we got back to Shawn, and Shawn cuts a promo. It wasn't all that good. It's kind of hard to describe. He was there in the middle of a really tightly packed crowd, and it really looked like Shawn was reading off of a cue card while surrounded by a large group of people who were all reading along with him on the cue cards. Just kind of an awkward look. We left Shawn to go back to the ring and saw Bret Hart limping down to the ring. We got footage from Superstars here, a little more information on where Stone Cold gave Bret the Pillman treatment, and rather than Bret, we come back to Shawn Michaels again. Vince just needed another peek. And then a video review of some of the background between the Bulldog, Stone Cold Steve Austin as a segue to our next match, but first, we have some things to talk about here. Ryan, this entire segment amounted to Vince wanting to look at Shawn and Bret Hart not saying a word at all. There was some other things mixed in there. What did you have on it?
Well, I mean, McMahon definitely got his look at Shawn Michaels. Thank goodness for that. Psycho Sid in the Alamo Dome, I thought this was pretty good. Like you pointed out, it was completely empty and quiet, so we were able to hear Sid perfectly well, and I think this was one of his more coherent promos as well. I think, this was written in advance, and they probably took a few cuts to make sure it got right, and because of that, he came off as a psycho here. I thought it was a really good Sid promo. Shawn Michaels' promo, on the other hand, I mean, I don't know, was he at a New Year's Eve party? Because that was kind of what it seemed like. I don't know, just a standard Shawn Michaels promo that we've been getting for a little while now. He whines a little bit about having to carry the WWF on his shoulders and no respect like fucking Rodney Dangerfield. And that's it. A standard Michaels promo, nothing special out of him.
Yeah, this Sid promo, I kind of noted last week. I feel like I'm growing tired of Sid's promos at this point. But this one was pretty well done, like you guys said. It was pretty well produced, having it in that empty dome and having the echo and not being ruined by his music playing the whole time. So this one was pretty good. But, the other thing is with Sid's still a babyface, but it's a little confusing because he just destroyed this helpless man last week.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a heel move, but I guess he's a babyface.
Not when it's Peter Lothario.
Really? I don't know. Poor Peter.
Any member of the Lothario family. I mean, I feel like Sid's only going to get over more.
That's going to put him over more as a babyface,
Yeah.
Well, and then the match before this that we talked about, Goldust, it almost comes off as a babyface now, too.
Yeah.
So just a little confusion there, but the Shawn Michaels interview, I agree, it was a pretty terrible promo. He was clearly reading the entire thing. He kept looking off camera. But I gotta say, I loved this scene with him, with the fans all over him. It kind of reminded me of like a very 90s looking scene on like MTV, like Spring Break, or, you know, one of those things where like an MTV VJ would be talking and you'd see all these, you know, these random people just screaming behind them. I thought it was pretty cool, but man, that promo was just so terrible. I'm not sure what was going on there. So that's kind of a shame.
Yeah, good call on that. I didn't even think of it that way, but now that you say that, I think you're absolutely right. That did have a very 90s feel to it. Speaking of things that have a very 90s feel to them, let's go to our next match. Rocky Maivia defeats the British Bulldog Davey Boy Smith via countout in approximately 9 minutes and 4 seconds. The time is approximate based off of the first tie-up, as we did not get an opening bell. We start things off with Brett putting Rocky over on commentary. Even though he wasn't saying anything before, Brett is sticking around for commentary on this match. And then some kind of scene from Shotgun Saturday Night. Apparently Mero and Sable were arguing for some dumb reason. We've devolved to that already. I seem to remember, you know, the whole jealousy thing being a constant, but I didn't think that it would get this thick this fast with this many different people. Rocky wanted to save her from Mero, or she was distraught and screaming or something, and Mero misunderstood things, blah, blah, blah. Now Mero and Rocky are fighting over Sable, or at least that's kind of the idea that was given to us. I hope it does not continue. I liked the opening tie-ups here, and the following arm drag takedowns looked really good too. We got split screens with Brett. Brett was looking cool in his vest, and he had like a popped collar and sunglasses, kinda, and very 90s subdued, but very cool at the same time. He was looking good. Brett spent some time complaining about the lack of rules in his matches, calling the WWF a lawless land, and he kind of just stuck with that line throughout most of this. Honky Tonk tried arguing with him. It was pretty pathetic. But then Owen Hart came walking down the entryway, approaching commentary and putting his slammy down on the desk, slamming it, you might say. Verbally accosting Brett, but not being super aggressive here, just kind of standing there between Brett and the ring. And it seemed like Owen was there to supposedly keep Brett off of the Bulldog, I guess. It was kind of a weak excuse. They just stared each other down, and it actually was a very cool scene. As much as I'm kind of bitching about it a little bit there, it was McMahon really that I'm bitching about, because the way that he tried to just do ham-fisted explanations of everything going on around him to fit the story. It was clear that Owen was there to keep an eye on Brett, because he was literally standing in front of him staring at him. Vince asks the two of them, "Why the bad blood?" in what is quite possibly one of the stupidest fucking questions ever, because Vince then immediately went on to answer himself and list the reasons for the bad blood.
You got to remind the people.
That's right.
Yeah.
You're just being an effective narrator here.
Yeah.
Once Owen was there, the focus here was on the Hart brothers. The match became virtually forgotten, which is a shame because the action in the ring was solid. The Bulldog was a great opponent for young Rocky to work with here. But then, out of nowhere, Stone Cold Steve Austin cuts the leg out from under the Bulldog. Brett gets pissed off. He jumps up and goes limping after Austin, with Owen following, which was interesting. The Hart brothers have a common enemy in an angle that actually makes sense. This reminds me of what you brought up a couple weeks ago there, Joe. The plot thickens there. As is tradition, however, the Harts have completely ignored the Bulldog laying on the floor on the outside. Rocky manages to get back in the ring and claim the count-out victory, as opposed to Bulldog claiming the disqualification victory that he should have got, as Stone Cold and Brett disappear through the entrance. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, guys, but technically the Bulldog should have won this.
If the ref was doing his job, which he's typically not.
Yeah. Owen does come back to check on the Bulldog eventually, and that's where this is going to end. Joe, I wish we would have got more detail and focus on the action in the ring, because the work there looked great. But I am really digging the implications of the finish here. What did you think?
Yeah, I think this was mostly, focus was placed mostly on what's going on outside here, because this is almost like Stone Cold Steve Austin is being used to kind of bring the Hart family back together. And I like that a lot. I think that's great. But this is the very, very beginning of that, if that's even what this is. I mean, that's what I get out of it, but we'll see what happens. Bret Hart on commentary, he was really, really doing a good job of explaining who Rocky Maivia is and explaining all of his, family roots and everything. And
yeah,
I really liked when he was telling Vince about saying how he knows how tough Peter Maivia is. And yeah. I liked when Bret said, "Ask Big Stu about Peter Maivia." I thought that was great. And Owen coming out, I mean, all the stuff with Owen, I think it could have been a little bit better. But again, I like where they're going with this. I think that Bret Hart came off really good here. And just really good storytelling, and what better person to use to kind of bring these guys back together than Stone Cold Steve Austin. So I kind of like everything that's going on here, even though it did distract the match a little bit.
Yeah, and that's, I think we're all going to fall on the same idea here. It was a solid match, and they did a great job of extending this story between the Hart brothers and Stone Cold. The actual wrestling match itself, though, was sacrificed because of it, and not because of the two guys. I thought, Bartlett, you pointed out, Bulldog was a fantastic opponent for Rocky. When we were focusing on the ring and not at split screen, these two guys worked really good together. Everything looked smooth. And, I think it was a few weeks ago, Rocky was up against Sal Sincere in what we said was his worst match that he's had. This was one of his better ones. Him and the Bulldog, they're both big, strong power guys, but they both have pretty strong fundamentals, and they are able to give bursts of speed when they're needed. So I thought they matched up really good with each other. Owen comes down, and by the time that happens, it's pretty clear that the match is taking a back seat to the storytelling here. And for the most part, it delivers in doing what it needs to do. Not only do we leave here wondering what's happening now with Owen and Bret with a common enemy here in Stone Cold, and it's got kind of a bullshit ending with where Bulldog should have won from getting the stunner, but instead Rocky rolls in and gets the win. But all of that, like I said, was just second fiddle to the storytelling, which was good. And again, though, really working on building up our interest for the Royal Rumble. And I think it was McMahon even makes a point at the end to point out that, in the Royal Rumble, even tag team partners like Owen and Davey Boy will have to face off against each other. So good job of setting up the pay-per-view.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
Yeah, that's a good point too, because Brett's out here limping, so it's like, what's going to happen with him? Yeah. Is he still going to be hurt, or what's going to happen with him?
Yeah, and the Bulldog laying on the outside immobile while members of the Hart family step over him to go about their business was just icing on the cake, I thought.
By the way, the acting abilities from Sable, once again, on the shotgun highlights, fucking cringy. Oh, man. And she wanted to be an actress.
I don't understand how she never made it in Hollywood.
All right.
Men want to.
Jeez.
We are cruising right along through this episode. They're just, it was a full-length episode of Raw, 46 minutes, and it just doesn't feel like there was a whole lot in it at all as we come through to the final mid-match segment here. The Nation of Domination backstage. Again, the white people are numerically dominant in this scene. I feel the need to keep pointing that out because it's I don't know, it seems counterintuitive. But Farouk, in his promo that he gives here, it seems like he was reading my mind, because Farouk addresses unity as the primary motivator for the Nation of Domination. That goes a long way of explaining the we are the world kind of view that they've got going on here. Maybe they're baby faces. I don't know. Maybe that's how I should start looking at the Nation of Domination, is that in reality, they are baby faces.
Yeah, I mean, the cast of characters right now is like, what the fuck is happening?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, but obviously that will come together a little bit better later.
And the product of Raw being pre-recorded really showed its head here, because we do not have D'Lo Brown in the group, who they showed us from Shotgun Saturday Night, but I guess he didn't make his debut with the group yet here.
Yeah.
He could be severely injured after
That's true.
working with Ahmed Johnson.
Yeah.
Let's see it one more time.
Well, that would be a much better view than what we get here. Crush gives a promo about his upcoming match, and he starts off by giving us the crazy eyes. My God.
That'll get him over.
Yep. Yeah. There's a lot of things getting Crush over here in this episode. The crazy eyes, the promo, pretty shitty. Thankfully short, though. And that's it for this segment. Again, a short segment, but Joe, do you have anything you want to add? Especially in particular, I might ask, the joy that you might have felt at seeing and hearing Crush.
Brudda. No joy. Absolutely none at all. This is really bad, but Farouk is awesome. Farouk is great.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They got to get him a better cast of characters here, but yeah, not good.
Yeah, nothing more to add. Crush is pathetic.
This was a very, very 1980s type promo too, by the way, like in the back with Mean Gene type of thing.
Yeah. And if I had time to think about it, I could probably come up with some promos that we've seen that were worse.
Oh, sure.
But I don't know. This was just, I'm trying to think of the right way to put it. Just please, anybody listening to my voice right now, go and just watch this real quick, because it's bad on so many levels. So many levels. And it keeps going into our next match. The final match of the night, as a matter of fact. The Undertaker defeats Crush with the Nation of Domination via disqualification in 9 minutes and 15 seconds. The Undertaker's looking great in his entrance. We've hit on it a couple times here since he's made the transition. This whole, Hellraiser get up, and it's pretty cool. We get a view of Park Place. That's the nightclub, I think, not where Shawn Michaels was at. Shawn Michaels is at a different place. This is where Shotgun Saturday Night is going to be filmed on this upcoming weekend before the Royal Rumble. And Rocky Maivia somehow already made his way there. It looked like he was meeting up with the real Double J, Jesse James. Could have swore he was just in a match like 10 minutes ago.
I was hoping you guys would catch that. That was in the Observer News, that they had a little faux pas on Raw with having Rocky show up there after just having a match in the arena.
He jumped in the shower and made a beeline for the bar.
Sure did.
No continuity error there. Back in the arena, PG-13's rapping is just terrible. Terrible. It's the same song. It's not like they're trying to freestyle or anything. It's the same song that already exists. They already know the lyrics to it, and they still make it sound fucking terrible.
Worse than Mo.
Oh, my.
I don't know. I still think that they should give Mo a second chance with the Nation.
They need someone else to feed to Ahmed Johnson.
Literally and figuratively.
Yeah. Here, take Mo. Leave us alone.
The Undertaker goes straight at the Nation here to start things off, hitting everyone before settling on Crush and smearing Crush's fake tribal tattoo into the ring stairs. That was pretty good, I guess. It was good to hope for somebody, smashing Crush's face in. Not that Crush was in it or anything, but I loved the brief stare down between The Undertaker and Farouk before they got back in the ring. That was just a nice little moment, and it makes me want to see that. It's the damnedest thing, There are all these matches going on that we see that we don't give two shits about, and yet these two guys just stare at each other for all of 5 seconds, and I want to see that match. It's amazing what people with, a physical presence and fucking charisma can accomplish on a screen. Vince reminds us that Crush hates to be called Jailbird. I know it's come up tons of times over the past few weeks, so much so that we might have become deadened or numbed to the fact, but Crush hates to be called Jailbird. Undertaker, he goes to do the rope walk. Farouk shook the ropes, causing Taker to crotch himself. I feel like that's like the second or third time we've seen that in recent memory. Didn't Paul Bearer do that to Undertaker during one of the pay-per-view matches?
Yep.
Yeah. On commentary, Honky Tonk Man detailed how Clarence Mason was a proponent of ebonics in Oakland schools. Yeah. Crush was terrible in this, as expected. The man has zero timing, zero selling ability. When Crush gave Undertaker a pile driver, I thought for a second that he was going to kill the Undertaker.
Yeah, that was
before
scary.
I remembered that Taker was already dead. But in all seriousness, yeah, Joe, it was pretty scary. Like, it really looked like his head was like a full 6 inches below Crush's legs on that. For the record, the referee here was Earl Hebner, impotent, as usual. And then we got a view of Vader standing in the entryway. He was like just staring at the match in progress, looking like a lost, lonely puppy. Vader, McMahon notes Vader there, but as soon as he says, "There's Vader," that's the best time to break the commercial. It's the Starburst Fruit Twist rewind, and we rewound back to about 15 fucking minutes ago.
Best time to change the channel if you haven't done so already.
Yeah. This takes us back to when Stone Cold interrupted the Bulldog match, and we came back to Crush in control and the Undertaker taking it. No mention of Vader there, though. I kind of wondered if it was like a mistake, if Vader started to come out too early, or there was mistiming or something going on there. I don't know.
Yes, Vader is a mistake.
We did get the info here that there are 2 entrants in the Royal Rumble, that pay-per-view that's coming up, that are yet to be named. One will be a wild card entrant and named the day of the Rumble, while the other will be named, I think it was the day prior. It was really hard to understand the way they described it, but we'll get one sooner than the other. Crush started calling for the Hart Punch, and it took forever to set up, which of course gave Undertaker the opening to reverse it into a chokeslam. But whenever that happened, the Nation of Domination entered the ring to jump the Undertaker, drawing the DQ victory for him. Then Vader came into the ring. Such a weak entrance. In this ring full of people, including PG-13 and Crush, I might add, Vader had the weakest presence there. He started delivering Vader bombs to the Undertaker in the corner. I guess Vader is taking orders from the Nation of Domination now, because Farouk orders another Vader bomb, and Vader does it. Then Ahmed Johnson, out of nowhere, in sweatpants and a long-sleeved baggy t-shirt, runs in with a 2x4. What the fuck has been going on with Ahmed Johnson's wardrobe lately? That lasts all of 2 seconds before the Nation has Ahmed down and is beating him, and Farouk gets a stiff hit in with that 2x4 once before we fade to black. Ryan, this match got me pretty fucking excited for the Royal Rumble next week. What did you think of it?
Yeah, this poor Undertaker,
Yeah.
It started out in the very beginning, and it wasn't terrible. Undertaker immediately starts destroying Crush. At the beginning, I was at least interested to see how these guys would work together, because we know they're really good friends, and a lot of times, even with the worst of wrestlers like Crush, that could lead to a good match when they're working with one of their friends. And at the beginning, when Taker was in complete control, that was kind of the case, but the moment Farouk shook the ropes and caused the Undertaker to come down when he was walking the ropes up there, it just kind of went to shit. Crush tries to do a running clothesline to send Undertaker over the ropes, and Taker reverses it, but Crush is just too shitty of a wrestler to make it look good, and instead of actually swinging his legs over the ropes and going down, he kind of gets stuck at the top and flails straddled over the rope before he forces himself over, and it looked pretty bad, and it continued to look bad. Crush charges Taker and Taker reverses with a big boot, but that's telegraphed by Crush coming to an almost complete stop before his head hits into Taker's boot. And then the fucking finish as well. That choke slam was one of the worst fucking choke slams I have ever seen. He just lead-assed Taker there and just didn't get up at all. And, the last thing I want to point out is, Joe, this was a while ago you pointed it out, that you notice Crush kind of is stealing Taker's moveset. And I didn't think you could be any more clear than when Crush tried to walk the ropes to do some awkward looking flying punch thing that looked terrible. But you could definitely tell he was going for the big guy walking the tightrope move, taking another Taker move from him. And like every case he does it, it looks 100 times worse than anything Taker does. Then we get just cherry on the fucking top. Vader comes down and we get more of Vader. Some of the other matches tonight did a pretty good job, even if the match wasn't great, of setting up this pay-per-view. But if anything, this made me care less about their upcoming match at the pay-per-view.
I think we all agree that we would rather see Vader as a regular on Boy Meets World than Monday Night Raw. This match, Ryan, like you said, it really displayed what I said earlier about Crush trying to kind of mimic the way that The Undertaker works, but it's clearly not as good. And speaking of Crush, I guess, we kind of talked about it with the promo a little bit, but it's pretty clear what the message is with Farouk and what, I guess, gimmick is that he's trying to portray. But where do some of these other guys fit into the mix? I know that it's early in the nation, but like what is Crush's place in the nation? Nobody explains it. Vince never explains it. Nobody does.
Yeah, I think it's solely just we want to do a favor for Undertaker. He wants his buddy back in here. Let's plug him in somewhere.
Yeah, that's the backstage part of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing is Clarence is there. He's not really he's supposed to be a mouthpiece, but he's not. And I hate that he manages other guys in addition to the Nation of Domination.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I know it's going to change, but it's just like, what are we doing with this? Because it has potential and we're just kind of, I don't know, just throwing a bunch of random guys in this group and it's just very strange. But yeah, the match was pretty terrible way to go into the Royal Rumble. I don't understand what any of this has to do with the Royal Rumble. I guess, are these guys going to be in the Royal Rumble? I mean, did Vince or anyone tell us that? I don't know. Are the Nation guys going to be in there along with Ahmed?
One thing I know that we did take away is Vader and Undertaker have a match and they are both in the Royal Rumble as well.
Yeah.
So.
Wow. That's exciting. Did somebody, did any of you guys hear like a farting sound right before Vader hit the Vader bomb?
No.
I swear to you.
I mean, it's fitting, but...
I swear to you, I heard it. It didn't sound like the whoopee cushion. It sounded like he actually ripped ass right before he hit it.
I hope so.
Good God.
And that's a great way to end the show right there. Vader farting. Vader farting while I fall asleep while watching this.
Much like his run in the WWF.
The runs, yes.
Yeah. Oh, boy. Well, as I said, we faded to black, so let's take it on over now to highlights and lowlights. Joe, please, why don't you go first?
Oh, brother. This is sad. Lowlights, I'm going to say, the way that they began the show and the way they ended it. We're beginning the show with Marc Mero in some shitty tag team match, and then we end it with Crush. So that's my low light. I guess my highlight, I mean, this is pretty pathetic. I guess my highlight is the, like I mentioned, the scene with Shawn Michaels at the bar in San Antonio. I just thought the scene itself was pretty cool, but that's my only highlight.
Well, for highlight, I'm going to go with the Rocky Johnson British Bulldog match. It wasn't flawless by any means, but I thought it did a pretty good job of setting up this storyline with the Hart brothers and Stone Cold, as well as the match itself was fairly solid as well. Low light is this final match with The Undertaker, and it's not a huge surprise when you learn that he was up against Crush, and that it ends with Vader coming in. So we have Vader and Crush in the same ring. I don't think there's anything I could pick more for my low light than that.
Yeah, I mean, So I was actually kind of surprised because I had an abundance of material to work with here. My cup runneth over, really, with this episode. Highlights, I had to give an honorable mention to Sid quoting Nietzsche. I mean, that was great, right, in its own right? No, not really.
I'm sure he came up with that on his own.
Rocky versus Bulldog. I mean, that segment had the most all-around value to it, and that's comparatively speaking. You know, it wasn't setting my ass on fire at all to get up and watch any more of this or to keep me viewing this show without changing the channel. But if I have to compare something to the rest of the show that is better than the rest of the show, that would be it. My low light, it was the finish. You know, this is the go home to the Royal Rumble. It did nothing to increase the buy rate. I am less likely to buy this pay-per-view now. That's the only real lens I can look at this through, because every other episode of Raw that we see throughout the month, you know, it is what it is. But as the go home show, there's that higher standard. So I did want to give a legitimate honorable mention here. Another low light. There were no clean wins tonight. We had DQ, count out, and then DQ. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure why that bothers me as much as it does, but it just feels cheap and like really shitty storytelling. Joe, do you have any contemporary wrestling news from on and around January 13th, 1997 for us?
Yes, we have mentioned a few times here, this was the go-home show to the 1997 Royal Rumble, and Dave Meltzer has some predictions on the Royal Rumble, saying that it is generally accepted that Shawn Michaels will win his title back and build to a match against the predicted Royal Rumble winner, Bret Hart. Meltzer also predicts a swerve ending to the Rumble, though. Perhaps ending with a disputed ending rather than putting Bret Hart over completely. So that is the Dave Meltzer prediction. The WWF has put together plans for a 2-hour live USA special from 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern Time on February 13th from Lowell, Massachusetts. At this time, there is nothing known about this show at this time, but it's expected to have a loaded lineup. So you can expect to see some of your favorites like Crush and Marc Mero.
All right.
There was a special appearance by someone on the January 11th ECW show at the ECW Arena. Any guesses as to who that was?
Was that Jerry Lawler?
It was not. It was Rick Rude.
Oh, nice.
Rick Rude appeared on the show, but he was wearing a mask. He was trying to keep his identity a secret. Rick Rude, under that mask, came out to the ring and said that his New Year's resolution was to fuck up the life of Shane Douglas. When Shane Douglas asked why he would not show his face, the masked Rick Rude said if he took his mask off, Douglas would shit all over himself and he and all the fans would have to deal with the smell. There you have it. Rick Rude's appearance on ECW.
My God.
Mr. Rude, who is now 38 years old, he suffered a broken back in a match against Sting in May of 1994, and he has been rumored to be headed to the WWF when his disability insurance deal with Lloyd's of London runs out. So that's the rumor. Here's another rumor. Bradshaw and Barry Windham, formerly known as the Stalker, might be getting together as a heel tag team very soon.
All right.
Do you guys remember a guy by the name of Tiger Ali Singh?
Yes.
Vaguely.
Well, you will remember him shortly here. He's going to be making his appearance at the WWF soon, apparently.
Excellent. Is he going to tag team with the Sultan?
I don't know. I guess you'll have to find out.
I'm excited.
The second Shotgun Saturday Night show was said to have mixed reports, but one improvement that they made, according to the fans, was the lighting was a little bit better this time around. There were also reports of Rocky sucks chants from the crowd.
Oh,
Nice.
The WWF also announced that the Flying Nuns had been arrested, and that's why they did not appear on the show.
Jeez.
They also announced that Goldust was pregnant, and they said that he would be giving birth live next Saturday night. So tune in for that.
That's a really quick gestation period.
Uh-huh.
well, he is bizarre.
Very bizarre. And you want to hear some other bizarre news? There was a supposed Sunny sex video that they were going to feature on Shotgun Saturday Night.
Oh,
But
God.
it turned out to be a video which featured a Fondle Me Elmo doll and a bunch of moaning.
What the fuck? Seriously, that's really, really what the fuck material.
Yeah, and that's your recap of the second Shotgun Saturday Night episode.
Sexy.
Yeah. I mentioned it a couple weeks ago. Terry Funk will be at the Rumble. That is still the word on the street. So hopefully that happens. That'll add some excitement in there.
Yeah.
You know, the last piece of news was what we already talked about earlier when Bartlett, you mentioned that Rocky Maivia was in the San Antonio bar or whatever it was after he just had a match in the arena. So that is all we have, and sounds like everybody's really excited for the Royal Rumble.
Well, they've really beaten the excitement out of me personally. I don't know about you guys, but, they have all the materials here to get me excited and get me spending my money to buy that pay-per-view, but goddammit, I guess they just don't want it. Thank you, Joseph. Illuminating as always. And that is it, folks. We are done with this one. I want to thank you again for joining us. If you like what we're doing here and want to connect with us, you can email us at WRASSLINRAW. Just add @gmail.com to the end of that to submit questions or comments. Check us out on social media and on every podcast subscription platform. While you're there, don't forget to follow and subscribe to get every episode of Wrasslin Raw coming to you every week. Give us a 5-star review and let your friends know how much cooler they would be if they became Rawheads like you and me. Next week on Wrasslin Raw, we're going to take a look at the 1997 Royal Rumble with matches featuring Hector Garza, Jerry Estrada, and many more. So, for Joe and Ryan, I'm Jason, and this has been Wrasslin Raw.